Welcome to the program, everyone. Support comes from Beam. The holidays are fun, but they're brutal on sleep. Late nights, heavy food, parties, and suddenly you're exhausted, even when you're supposed to be resting. That's a problem. If you have been with this show for a while, you know I take my sleep extremely seriously. And when I'm behind on sleep, I'm foggy, I'm irritable, and not much fun to be around. That's why I use Beam. It helps me fall asleep faster, stay asleep, and wake up feeling clear instead of foggy. Dream is made with science-backed ingredients like magnesium, reishi, L-theanine, apigenin, and melatonin. No crash, just real rest. And it tastes good. My favorite flavor is chocolate, and they've just brought back their peppermint bark. So Beam has helped improve over 28 million nights of sleep. So go to shopbeam.com/lemon. Use the code LEMON for up to 40% off. Let's get started. That's right. Let's get started, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, Lemon Heads, Lemon Nation, and people who are not part of the Lemon Nation yet. Become a part of the Lemon Nation. Make sure you like and subscribe this morning and hit that thumbs up because it's important. More people become aware of our conversation, and we have a really important channel, and our conversations are really important, especially one we had yesterday, because I had friends and people who weren't, not so friendly with me calling me saying, you know what, you really broke through yesterday. And I was like, wait, what are you talking about? I broke through. I didn't understand. And some people say that maybe I started something where people felt it was okay. I don't know. Or maybe we were just thinking this. Everybody was thinking the same way. I don't want to give myself that much credit, but I did receive a couple of texts and messages from people I don't normally hear from, especially about things that are on the show, saying, I'm glad you said it for me. And I'm glad you said it because they can't say it. I'm glad you went there. And so welcome to the program. Thank you so much. Let me know where you're streaming from. And I'm going to tell you, well, first of all, I'll play it and then I'll tell you how I feel about it. This was what I said yesterday about Donald Trump's response to Rob and Michelle Reiner's awful, awful death. You know what, Donald Trump? Fuck you. Just fuck all the way off. What an asshole and a small-minded, small dick shit to do. Like, you have no couth. You are an immature child. You are a bigot, a fucking racist, and a small penis asshole. Yeah, I said that. Just hateful and delusional. And you have the nerve to be upset because people were critical of Charlie Kirk's, what he said before he died, how he talked about black people and women and all, and you have the nerve to be all up in arms about that. Just fuck all the way off. That just shows me that you were just grifting off of Charlie Kirk's death. That you don't give a shit about respecting someone when they die. You don't care. You care about yourself. And you are preaching and promoting hate. It's just vile. It makes me sick that you are president of the United States. It's embarrassing. You are an embarrassment to this country. It's just gross. I don't even know how else. I mean, it's just, I hate to even say it. Like, I hate to even say your name. I don't even like to hear your voice. It's so gross. It sounds like you're vomiting when you talk. Everything is like that. And you wonder where all the hate comes from in this country. It comes from you. You are the promoter of hate in this country. The example of it. And you expect people to respect you when you have no respect for other people and zero respect for the office that you hold. And so I'm giving you the same energy that you give others. That's how I feel about it. Fuck you. Whoa. And then is that the last thing I said? Or did I go on to say something else?
There's a little bit more.
Is this the part after the Barack Obama thing?
No, this is just continuing where we were.
Okay. So I said a little bit more later, but here's the thing. Like, it's tough for me to say those things, like, when I talk to like that about Megyn Kelly, people who have attacked me for years. Donald Trump has attacked me for years. Donald Trump attacks everyone. He thinks that he can say anything to anyone about anyone. But then if you do the same thing about him, he gets all up in arms. He wants to cancel you. He talks shit about you, whatever. It's tough for me to say it because that's not really my nature to do that. But somebody has to say it. Now, look, I've never spoken that way about Barack Obama or George Bush or whatever. It's just that Donald Trump is a vile, nasty, revolting human being who should not be president of the United States. He shouldn't even be not that dog catcher is like, someone has to do it. But that job, he's not even qualified for that job. He's just an awful, down in the gutter, below the gutter, revolting, repugnant, did I say vile, nasty, subhuman being. And so, I said, it's tough for me to say that, especially like someone coming from traditional journalism where I had to sit there and it's like, maybe that stuff was rummaging through my head, but I could never say it. And now I could say it. So it's tough. It's not really in my nature to do that. But sometimes you just have to call people out. You just have to call them on their shit. And you just have to give them the same energy that they give other people, because everybody else is going to sit around and say, it's awful. I can't believe that he said that. And or they'll just be silent. Like a lot of the Republican Party is just not saying anything. If you guys can get me, please, I forgot, get me Mike Johnson's response yesterday, which was basically nothing, afraid. He's a coward. But surprisingly, there have been some who are not cowards. So, and then, after all that, after I said and others started coming out. So thank you for all the people who reached out to me saying there were some haters that I got one note from saying, oh, someone is talking shit about you on some channel like Newsmax or something like that, or News Nation or something. I was like, I don't care. I don't really give a shit. Like, who cares? Let them grift and, clout chase off of me, as they often do. And so here's Donald Trump even after that. This is what he said. He doubled down. He's no shame.
A number of Republicans have denounced your statement on Truth Social after the murder of Rob Reiner. Do you stand by that post?
Well, I wasn't a fan of his at all. He was a deranged person as far as Trump is concerned. He said he knew it was false. In fact, it's the exact opposite, that I was a friend of Russia, controlled by Russia. It was the Russia hoax. He was one of the people behind it. I think he hurt himself in career-wise. He became like a deranged person, Trump derangement syndrome. So I was not a fan of Rob Reiner at all, in any way, shape, or form. I thought he was very bad for our country. Yeah.
Gross. So good morning, everyone. I wanted to start with this today because there's a whole other thing that we could have started with. There's a big layout of Susie Wiles and his chief of staff. We're going to talk about that. But I want to start with this because this has been sitting with me, and I think it's sitting with a lot of you too. This is something that bothered a lot of people. And so, but it's not making me angry. It's just like unsettling and you're wondering, like, why are people still standing behind this man? And why is he so vile? And how did he get to be president of the United States? And what does that say about us? Yeah, us. Not just the people who voted for him, but for the people who may have sat at home, the people who were, just sort of apathetic. Just we're like, I don't know. People who weren't motivated, the third party voters. And like, what does that say? Because this past day has felt really different. I mean, not because of the headline, and not because it was some shocking revelation, but because of the reaction to this. So we all know what happened. It was a family tragedy. It was brutal. It was unthinkable. The kind of thing that should stop everything for a moment, where the world should just stop and go, wow, because we all have issues in our family with people who have either mental health issues, as I said, or who have addiction issues. And then Donald Trump responded the way that Donald Trump responds. No pausing to think about it, no restraint, no instinct to just shut up. Which is what, if you can get me that as well, I'm remembering all this stuff because I was like watching some of the responses, which is what John Kennedy from Louisiana said. And I think I'm paraphrasing, it's a quote, a smart man something stays silent, Donald Trump should have been silent. Donald Trump made it ugly. And I don't mean, in a controversial way. I mean, provocative. I don't mean provocative, I should say. I don't mean, here he goes again. It wasn't that. I mean, just ugly in that way where you kind of lean back from the screen or the thing and you go, what? Because I told you yesterday, or when we were in the middle of the thing, we're about to go on the live stream, and Peter said, "Oh, we just got a response from Trump," and I'm like, "That's not real." And Peter saw Tim Miller's tweet from the Bulwark, and I'm like, "That's not real." He goes, "Oh, Tim Miller, I don't think he would put something out there." I said, "No, I don't think so, but maybe it's like a AI or like the Onion or something," because it was just gross even for him. So, but as it turned out, Peter went on to Truth Social, and there it was. So what caught my attention wasn't just that what he said, it was how fast the air went out of the room afterwards, where people are like, because usually the script, he says something outrageous, people laugh, then they defend him, and then people say everyone else is too sensitive. This time that did not happen. It wasn't like, "Oh, this is locker room talk." So I kept seeing hesitation from people that who would normally jump in and they didn't jump. People who would joke and they didn't joke. And all the people who always had excuses suddenly did not have an excuse. And I thought, okay, well, that's interesting. Maybe there's hope. Because this wasn't a political disagreement. And it wasn't the left is mad again. I saw some of that. Ooh, looks like the liberals are mad today, which is just really stupid people who really just have anyone with a brain or any sort of empathy or any compassion would not be like, "Oh, the liberals are mad today." That would be the last thing that you would go. You just go, this is what people do. They look and they go, huh. That's people who are feeling embarrassed, right? So, and I'm going to show you, you can hear it in what they said and their body language, and some of the folks like Mike Johnson tried to just move on quickly. This is Mike Johnson.
The Rob Reiner tragedy, and I heard the shocking news as many did this morning. I was in meetings, fundraising meetings this morning, walked out and heard that. The shocking news that apparently their son committed the murders is not only an unspeakable family tragedy, it's another reminder of just the senseless violence and evil that is so rampant in our society. So our prayers go out to the Reiner family, the survivors, and everybody who's affected by this. At times like this, my thoughts go to Scripture. Psalm 34 is a good one. It says, "The Lord is close to the brokenhearted, and He saves those who are crushed in spirit." We're seeing a lot of tragedies. I was looking on my Twitter feed this morning, all the terrible events that have befallen, the slaughter of Jewish young people celebrating Hanukkah in Australia. We had the troops that we lost in the last few days. You've had all these
Do we have the part where he's asked about
the tragedy? We see evil all around us.
Manu asking about the response.
Holiday season, as we enter the holy season, we've begun Hanukkah. We're coming up upon
not sure.
Christmas.
There's 15 seconds
we have
left.
to appeal to our better angels.
No, he's asked about this.
We've got to amplify those voices and those sentiments. So that's my position on it. I don't think that's probably a surprise.
What about the president's attack? What about the president's attack of him?
There is a soundbite where he was asked about it, and he doesn't respond. And he does respond. He says, "I don't feel like I should respond." But then he just went away because he knew what was said. If you can find the other one, that would be great. So, there are people who were, I don't think, people were outraged, I don't know. I just think that people were like, wow, that's sad. I don't know if there was an outrage in there. So I think people's discomfort tells you more than anger ever will. You ever see when people get angry, all right, whatever, but then finally when they have accepted the end, they're like, oh, and then they just move on. And that's kind of what happened a couple Tuesdays ago in those states. in those special elections that happen around the country. People were they weren't like, I'm out here, I'm pissed, I'm voting against Donald Trump. They just went in and they just voted. And they said, I'm done. So here's the thing. People will defend a lot if they think it's funny. They'll excuse a lot if they think something is strong. And then they'll rationalize a lot if they think something is winning. We've seen that with the Trump folks, right? If they think it's winning, then they'll rationalize it. But it was not any of that. This was someone taking something awful, making it smaller, making it cheaper, and making it about himself. And a lot of people who usually go along with that, they suddenly didn't want to be standing with that. And that is the real shift here. And it's not because like Marjorie Taylor Greene that people have changed their politics, right? I don't believe that because these people are still MAGA. They're still very conservative. And not because they suddenly grew morals overnight. I don't believe that, especially if you look at some of the things, and I'm going to show you James Woods, but James Woods is also repugnant. But because this crossed into a place that felt wrong in a way that you don't need ideology to recognize. And there are still moments in life where most people expect, like, okay, let's take a pause on this. And death is one of them. Violence is one of them. Loss is one of them. And I don't know if you guys remember, but after Charlie Kirk died, people said, this is awful. The man should not have died this way. I feel terrible for his widow and all of the things. And then they would say, I didn't agree. I hardly agreed with anything that Charlie Kirk said, but this should never have happened to him. That would have even been an okay response from Donald Trump. Look, I hardly ever agreed with Rob Reiner. The guy came after me a lot, but this is awful. This is tragic. I feel for his family. A lot of us have, people who have addiction or mental health issues in our family, and we should, do something about it or whatever. But regardless, that would have been, but that wasn't the response. Trump does not seem to recognize those moments where you take a pause at all. And so this time it just landed differently because the cruelty, it wasn't wrapped in humor. You couldn't excuse it. You couldn't say, oh, this is just guys being guys. It's locker room talk, or this is Donald Trump and he's or whatever. Because it wasn't hidden behind a rally crowd of people cheering him on. I wonder what people at the rally, I wonder if some people would have cheered. So, and it wasn't like covered over or smoothed over or softened by, applause in the background. It just kind of just sat there and people had to sit with it. And that's perhaps why you saw the awkward silences from people like Mike Johnson. And then that's why you saw the pivot. Do we have Marjorie Taylor Greene's response? Marjorie Taylor Greene basically responded by saying something very similar to what I said. And this is what she said. That was her pivot, and that was her response. Rob Reiner and his wife were tragically killed at the hands of their own son, who reportedly had drug addiction and other issues, and their remaining children are left in serious mourning and heartbreak. This is a family tragedy, not about politics or political enemies. Many families deal with a family member with drug addiction and mental health issues. It's incredibly difficult, and it should be met with empathy, especially when it ends in murder. That's how she responded to what Donald Trump had said about it. And so that's why you saw people pivot, and that's why you saw folks suddenly saying, yeah, I'm not going to touch that. But the people who said, I'm not going to touch it, and they didn't want to own it, and they remained silent, I think that you're just as culpable. Nobody wanted to explain it, which is, yep. And nobody wants to say, well, that's fine. So when that happens, something cracks, right? And like I said, it's not like a big public thing, and it's not that dramatic. It's quiet, like people going into the voting booths on those past 2 Tuesdays and really voting in ways that shocked the pollsters. and politirati or whatever you want to call them, the pundits and all the people who think they know so much about politics and they don't know. It's just easy. All you have to do is just read the room and talk to people, and that's how you find out what's going on. There's no like exact science around it. So this is, I will play you. Wait, I'm going to play you MAGA responses that will shock you. First, a word from our sponsors. Support comes from Ollie. Listen, my dogs, Boomer, Barkley, Gus, they get the best because they deserve it. And that starts with what's in their bowl. That's why I switched to Ollie. Ollie makes fresh human-grade dog food with real ingredients, no fillers, no mystery stuff, just balanced meals dogs genuinely love. You take a quick 30-second quiz, and Ollie builds a meal plan tailored to your dog's needs. It shows up fresh and ready to serve. Since switching, I've noticed better energy, better digestion, empty bowls every single time. So Ollie is backed by vet nutritionists and even offers on-demand health support through their app. Your dog's well-being starts with their food. Go to ollie.com/lemon and use the code LEMON to get 60% off of your welcome kit. The show is sponsored today by MSI Reproductive Choices. MSI provides contraception, safe abortion, and essential reproductive health care in 36 countries, often where they are the only provider women can access. This year has been devastating. Funding cuts, closed programs, and fewer options for women and girls who already had very little. MSI prepared for this moment. They diversified funding after the first Trump administration. Even so, they still lost $15 million and kept going. Why? Because people refuse to look away. People who believe healthcare is a human right. People who understand that when women control their bodies, they control their futures. If you want to help, text LEMON to 511-511 or go to msiunitedstates.org for $65. You can provide contraception for 10 women for an entire year. Text LEMON to 511-511. Okay. Thank you to our sponsors. Now we're going to start with someone who usually carries Trump's water, who was kind of outraged. Is it surprising? No, no. But here's Piers Morgan.
Donald Trump has just posted this. A very sad thing happened last night in Hollywood. Rob Reiner, a tortured and struggling but once very talented movie director and comedy star, has passed away together with his wife Michelle, reportedly due to the anger he caused others through his massive, unyielding and incurable affliction with a mind-crippling disease known as Trump derangement syndrome, sometimes referred to as TDS. He was known to have driven people crazy by his raging obsession of President Donald J. Trump, with his obvious paranoia reaching new heights as the Trump administration surpassed all goals and expectations of greatness, and with the golden age of America upon us, perhaps like never before. May Rob and Michelle rest in peace. You know, I've got to say, Cenk, that just crosses every line of just basic human decency to me. Yeah, Rob Reiner was murdered last night by his troubled, unhinged son. And to make political capital, and what angers me about it is there was all the outrage from Trump supporters, rightly, when the left mocked Charlie Kirk after he was murdered. And I thought we'd reached a kind of consensus that this, whatever side of the divide you're on,
Can
this
you guys
is just
pause, okay, that was just the left did not mock Charlie Kirk after that's just wrong. I didn't see any politician on the left, any high profile person on the left that mocked Charlie Kirk. I didn't see anyone publicly mocking him. That's just a lie. Now, were there trolls on the internet? Sure. Were there some trolls? Sure. But in the overall scheme of things, that's just a flat out lie. The left did not mock Charlie Kirk's death. Nobody. So while, I just have a hard time believing Piers, because I think Piers is, and he's an unreliable, non-serious person who sort of changes with the wind, whatever he thinks is going to be expedient for him. And perhaps he, maybe stuck his finger up and he read the wind and, see which way the wind was blowing or which way the social media, I don't know. But I don't think he's like a credible person when it comes to this. But at least he's saying the right thing to a a show that is built on trolling the left and clickbait. I think that it's good for his audience to hear this. Keep going.
Acceptable that when people get murdered, happened as we came on air. And I just thought we've got to start with this, because when you're the most powerful man in the world, listen, everyone knows I've known Trump a long time, but this is one of those times when many times he's been like this when big public figures have died. I remember it with John McCain. I remember it with Colin Powell. And each time I just wince at the lack of basic decency.
Why does he still continue to support him then? Like, fool me once, shame on you, George Bush, fool me twice. I mean, come on. Why, when people show you who they are, like, why would he, then why does he, and why do people keep supporting him and making excuses for him when this is who Donald Trump is? He is an awful subhuman being. Keep going.
Celebrating Rob Reiner's death. I hope, as Julian said,
well, it sounds like Donald Trump is getting. Yeah, but look, it does sound like he's getting pretty close to it. I mean, when he says that, he got killed reportedly due to the anger he caused others with his mind-crippling disease, Trump derangement syndrome. There is zero evidence for any of that. He got killed by his deeply disturbed son, after what the TMZ and New York Post and others are reporting was a terrible family argument. The son, Nick, who's now 32, was a screenwriter who'd battled and talked openly made a film about drug addiction, homelessness, and so on. But apparently, used whatever kind of implement to slit the throats of his parents.
Yeah.
I
hear you. I'm not justifying it.
So
I don't think
there's any political motivation for this attack whatsoever. But Donald Trump has made it political by inferring very clearly that this happened because Rob Reiner attacked him.
Yeah. So there you go. That's one person. Again, take it for what it's worth with a grain of salt. It is Piers Morgan. It's on, as I said, a show that is built on clickbait and, and right-wing trolls, like trolling the left. And just, what did my friend say? Just sort of B level or C, what do they call it? Or like D level something people. Anyways. And then this is, of all people, Nick Fuentes.
Forget for a moment that we are in a war. Someone gets murdered by their son. It's a horrific tragedy. This is a horrible story. And nobody deserves that. I don't care what their politics are, what they said on the internet or on television. Nobody deserves to be murdered, stabbed to death with their wife by their own son, who they tried to help, and their best friend discovers the corpses. It's despicable. And it's despicable to make fun of that. And I do think that, look, somebody like George Bush passes away of old age at the very end, and you talk about his political legacy, that's one thing. Some guy, some producer, some civilian dies at the hands of his kid. It's such a grisly situation. It is objectively awful to make fun of that. Now, if Trump were actually doing what he promised to do, you could overlook the fact that he's a douchebag. You could overlook the fact that he's vain, that he's a narcissist, that he's tactical but not strategic. You could overlook all these things if he was bringing home the goods. That was kind of the deal in 2016. You said, we don't love everything about Trump, but you know what? We're willing to accommodate. It's an acquired taste, but it's okay because he's doing all these other things. Well, what's actually the pitch now?
So, yes, and I agree with everything you guys are saying in the comments about Nick Fuentes, but it's just interesting to hear the right and someone who was a MAGA supporter, I'm not sure how much he supports MAGA now, say this publicly about Donald Trump. So many people won't. They just won't say it because they're afraid. They just won't say it because they're afraid and they're nervous of Donald Trump's response, which is sad. And what Donald Trump said, it wasn't telling it like it is. It's not what it was. It was someone who just couldn't recognize a human boundary. And that's a problem that no amount of loyalty can fix here. So, is this another Mike Johnson clip or is it the same one?
This is a new one.
Okay. Again, here's Mike Johnson.
Mr. Speaker, did you see
do you condemn Trump's post about Rob?
What do you got?
what are your thoughts about what President Trump said about Rob Reiner at his press conference today?
I don't do ongoing commentary about everything that's said by everybody in government every day. We are trying to bring down healthcare costs for the American people. They're very important votes, very important issues, and that's what we're focused on.
I
gave commentary this morning, and you all heard it.
What a coward. As I said, this isn't about politics. It's like, come on. This is the person who you support. This is the leader of your party, Mike Johnson. This is the president of the United States. You are the Speaker of the House. You're trying to bring down healthcare costs. Where's your healthcare plan? You don't have one. Republicans have been saying for decades now, we're gonna fix healthcare. We're gonna do whatever. And then since the Affordable Care Act was enacted, we're gonna get rid of Obamacare, and you haven't. You don't have a plan. So this isn't. I mean, is it about politics? Yeah, somewhat. Not really, but somewhat. It's really about how someone behaves when the moment demands decency instead of fuckery. I love that word. That's good. When the moment and the situation demands decency, leadership, diplomacy, instead of fuckery. And Mike Johnson, as one of the heads of the leaders of the legislative branch, one would think that you would have the balls to condemn this, or at least take a stance and say, hey, look, I agree with the man, or whatever. But no. And this time that behavior turned a lot of stomachs. It turned a lot of stomachs. Like, of all people, Laura Ingraham. Laura Ingraham over on the Fox News said, Rob Reiner was a legend. This is Laura Ingraham. You are Ingraham, but I think it's Ingraham. His work as an actor and director entertained generations and will live on. We strongly disagreed on politics, but when I ran into him at a Brentwood restaurant years ago, we had a respectful conversation, and he agreed on the spot to come in studio the very next night. My deepest condolences to his family. And then she put a link to her interview there. And so that's usually how it is when you meet people who you may think are just your political opposite, or maybe even your political rival. When I meet Republicans, or I know a lot of Republicans and a lot of MAGA folks, I've had them on the set with me. I've known them, I've been in social circles with them, and they're usually pretty nice in person. And then they get on TV and they talk shit, and you're like, okay, well, that was interesting. Like Sean Hannity. Always, hey man, let's go out for a steak. Oh, how you doing? Oh, it's good. Oh. And then he just says the most vile things about you on the air, which is really, I think, who people are in many ways, because that's what the world gets to see. That's what you're putting out there in the universe. So some people didn't want to say it out loud at first. They rarely do. Laura Ingraham didn't say it out loud, but she did put her interview up there. But then it shifted, and people started talking. I don't know if you guys know who James Woods is. He's an actor. I think he was in A Few Good Men, right? I believe years ago. He credits Rob Reiner for reviving his career. James Woods is I guess you can call him die in the wood, but a diehard conservative and MAGA Donald Trump supporter. He was on Fox News last night. I think it was Jesse Walters. Here it is.
James, how did you know Rob Reiner?
I knew Rob Reiner because at a very, very down point in my career, Rob literally saved my career and really put me back on track in a way that was so important and rewarding in my life. And he really fought for me when the studio didn't want me in a movie. I was 32 years too young for the part, but he really believed that I was right and could do it. It was something that virtually nobody agreed with except one of his partners, Martin Schaefer, who was the head of Castle Rock and, one of the greatest production companies ever. And we did Ghosts of Mississippi together. And I went from really being basically out of a job to getting an Academy Award nomination. And I give all the credit to Rob. And, it's funny, people would have seen, it's impossible to talk about him in the past tense, but I'd be at a party at my friend's house, and people who didn't know that Rob and I knew each other, they'd see us laughing and, kidding each other, and they'd go, "How is it that you and Rob Reiner are friends?" And I said, "Well, what do you mean?" They said, "Well, you're so different in your politics and so on." I said, "Look, let me explain something about Rob Reiner so that you know. First of all, I judge people by how they treat me, and Rob Reiner was a godsend in my life. We got along great. We loved each other. We had more fun together doing a very serious subject. It was a way to kind of get through it. And he was always on my side. But when people would say to me, "Well, what do you think of his politics?" I would say, "I think Rob Reiner is a great patriot." Do I agree with some of or many of his ideas on how that patriotism should be enacted to celebrate the America that we both love? No. But he doesn't agree with me either, but he also respects my patriotism. We had a different path to the same destination, which was a country we both loved. And when people would say terrible things to me on social media about him, I said, "You got it all wrong. And yes, I can see how you can disagree with him, but because you disagree with people doesn't mean that you have to hate people." And what Rob and I could do, Rob and I could sit in a room. I could sit in a room with Sean Penn, by the way. I could sit in a room with a lot of my liberal friends and say, "Look, I think you're wrong about this, this, and this." And they could say the same to me, and we would find a way to work it out. And that was one of the great things about him. He was a real thinker when you had a chance to talk to him. And a lot of people just don't think anymore. And look, I knew and by the way, we're talking about a tragedy here about Rob and Michelle, right? Two extraordinary, lovely people. And you can't forget how important it is, because that marriage, Michelle did in Rob's life what Rob did in my life at a time when I needed him. And all I've ever said about Rob Reiner is he's somebody I love, respect, and cherish. And when my friend Carol called me and said, "Listen, I want you to hear about this before it's on the news," Rob and Michelle were murdered. And I literally said, "Rob and Michelle who?" She goes, "Reiner." And I said, I literally, when you can't breathe, I literally said, and I said, "Was it a home invasion?" And she said, "We don't know, but it may have been Nick." Oh. And I'm telling you, I just felt the floor. I just felt my heart drop. And I just thought, what Tracy's going to go through, what
Did you have any idea that this would come at the hands of the son?
No, I did not. No, that was not. I didn't know the children very well, except Tracy, because I'd also done a movie with Penny, so Tracy was around a lot. And I knew them through work, and you learn everything you need to know about people when you're working on a movie. It was an extraordinary experience on that movie. I worked with Rob and Whoopi. Whoopi and I were Whoopi Goldberg played Myrlie Evers, and we got along so well. And people are always shocked when I speak well of Whoopi Goldberg. but I love Whoopi, and I love the way she treated me on the movie. And, you know, it was a very happy experience and a very powerful one. And Rob's dedication to telling the story of Medgar Egger's assassination, and the way in particular Rob spoke, and you mentioned this, it was mentioned on Laura Ingram's show, about how Rob talked when Charlie Kirk was assassinated. I knew Charlie Kirk. I supported him. I'd seen him last year just before Christmas. And to know that he had been assassinated was so devastating. People said such horrible things. And Rob did not. And when people say horrible things about Rob right now, I find it, quite frankly, infuriating and distasteful. Did I agree with his politics? I did not. Did I love him as a friend, as an artist, as an icon of Hollywood, and as a patriot? I most certainly did. And I am just absolutely devastated by this terrible event, especially for his family.
Okay. So James Wood, thank you for those words. Here's the thing that bothers me about that, because it does. And he said people said such horrible things, and I don't like. And I'm not talking about the internet, but I don't know one high-profile person that said Charlie Kirk deserved it. People said, I thought, very kind and respectful things about Charlie Kirk, and that were representative of his character. Those who were critical, that just because you're critical doesn't mean that you're saying horrible things about a person. But I wish that James Woods, if you ever see some of the things that he says, some of the things that he posts, how he talks about people, I wish he would have that same energy for people that he didn't know, or people who didn't do nice things for him, people who didn't contribute to his popularity, his wallet, his career, his bottom line. Because that's the measure of a man or a woman, is when you can be kind and human and compassionate and empathetic to people that aren't helping you, when it doesn't affect you. But sometimes, you know, I always say, racism doesn't affect you, it doesn't exist. If homophobia doesn't affect you, then it doesn't exist. If all these things don't affect you, then it doesn't exist. And that's what James Woods is doing right there. But again, hey, I'm happy he's saying it, and I'm happy that he understands what Donald Trump did was awful and should not have happened. But in order for him to understand it, it had to happen to someone that he cared about. Do you feel me? You should feel that way when it happens to someone you don't care about, which is how people felt about Charlie Kirk, who didn't like him, who said he should not have died. And if someone like the president or whatever would have said something about it, even the people who didn't like him would have said, you shouldn't be saying that shit. You shouldn't be saying that. A word from our sponsors. There's more after this. Support for the show comes from Aura Frames. Every year I plan to give thoughtful gifts, and every year I end up scrambling at the last minute. Gift card, anyone? Well, this year I figured it out. Aura Frames. Aura makes gifting personal without being complicated. You load photos and videos straight from your phone using the Aura app, and they appear instantly on the frame. You can preload photos before it ships and add a personal message. Every frame arrives in a premium gift box with no price tag. It's simple, meaningful, and something people actually use. You can't wrap togetherness, but you can frame it. Right now, go to auraframes.com and use the promo code DonLemon to get $35 off of the Carver Matte Frame. That's Aura Frames, A-U-R-A, frames.com. Use the code DonLemon. This episode of the Don Lemon Show is brought to you by Graza. The holidays are here, and olive oil is actually a great gift, way better than socks. Graza makes fresh, single-origin olive oil that's never blended. The olives are picked, pressed, and bottled in the same season, and you can see the harvest date. It's right on the bottle. They have ready-to-gift sets, including the dinner party pack with cooking oil, finishing oil, wine, a corkscrew, and Evo potato chips. They also have their duo gift sets with sizzle and drizzle, now in glass. Graza makes everything taste better and looks great in the kitchen. So go to graza.co/Don and use the code Don for 20% off of your first order. Thanks to all of our sponsors. So you want to see a classy person reacts to someone dying. This is Rob Reiner reacting to Charlie Kirk's death.
When you first heard about the murder of Charlie Kirk, what was your immediate gut reaction to it?
Well, horror, absolute horror. And I unfortunately saw the video of it, and it's beyond belief what happened to him, and that should never happen to anybody. I don't care what your political beliefs are. That's not acceptable. That's not a solution to solving problems. And I felt like what his wife said at the service, that the memorial they had, was exactly right. And totally, I believe, I'm Jewish, but I believe in the teachings of Jesus, and I believe in doing to others, and I believe in forgiveness. And what she said to me was beautiful, and absolutely, she forgave his assassin, and I think that is admirable.
Don't get much classier than that. The former First Lady, or our forever First Lady, was on Jimmy Kimmel last night, and she revealed that she and her husband, Barack Obama, the former president, actually had plans to see the Reiners, maybe to have dinner with them on Sunday. And she spoke out about the tragic death. Here it is.
You and your husband were friends with Rob and Michelle Reiner, and I'm very sorry for your loss.
My God.
How long have you known the Reiners?
We've known them for many, many years, and we were supposed to be seeing them that night, last night, and we got the news. And let me just say this, unlike some people, Rob and Michelle Reiner are some of the most decent, courageous people you ever want to know. They're not deranged or crazed. What they have always been are passionate people in a time when there's not a lot of courage going on. They were the kind of people who were ready to put their actions behind what they cared about. And they cared about their family, and they cared about this country, and they cared about fairness and equity. And that is the truth. I do know them.
So that's why this is so important right now. That's why people feel not necessarily angered, but that's why people feel, I believe, more uncomfortable right now. Just as there's a discomfort. And I believe that's the kind of moment that actually matters, because it doesn't change things. I've been telling you guys with the Epstein, it doesn't change things overnight, but every little bit, every little, nick at the armor, not that it changes overnight, but because it plants a thought that people didn't want to have. You have something where it says, oh, I didn't want to have that thought. I didn't want to feel that way, but I just can't shake it. This plants a thought that people didn't really want to have. And once that thought is there, it doesn't leave easily. That's it. It's just that simple. It doesn't leave easily. So thank you for your kind words, Michelle Obama. And thank you for all of the people who spoke out. I'm going to tell you how I feel, whether you think it's critical or not. I'm glad that Laura Ingraham spoke out. I'm glad that Marjorie Taylor Greene spoke out. I'm glad that James Woods spoke out. There should be more. They shouldn't be the only ones, or of the few. There are others, maybe a handful, a couple more, but I'm surprised that the entire Republican Party is not saying something, not putting out statements, because this one really hits differently. We'll talk about this story, this bombshell story that is in Vanity Fair about Susie Wiles. We'll do that for you at 5 o'clock, okay? So Thank you for watching. If you want to know anything about the Don Lemon Show, go to donlemon.com. There it is right there. You can purchase tickets everywhere. For our New Year's Eve thing, it's at the top. You can also click on watch and you can become a member and subscribe. And then also, if you want to know where we get all of this great merch from, click on merch, and there it is. And I think, is it today or was it today? I think today is the last day before Christmas. I don't know if it was today or yesterday. I think it's today. If you want to get the ornament or that, but you could try. You never know. You never know. So go to donlemon.com and click everywhere. So thank you to it was yesterday. Okay. So maybe you'll get it the day after Christmas. Who knows? Maybe the Santa will surprise you and get it to you anyways. I think it was guaranteed. Okay. So that, and we'll show our merch pictures tonight. Okay. So thank you for watching. I want you to be informed without being inundated. Oh yeah, we still have the New Year's stuff. So we have you can get the New Year's Eve box that's there, and you can celebrate with us. The New Year's Eve box is right there in the middle, and you can celebrate New Year's. Great, beautiful champagne flutes with the Don Lemon Show celebrating 2026. Great stuff that you'll get, commemorative stuff, and a special personalized message from me. So be informed without being inundated. Until I see you back here at 5 p.m. Eastern time here on the Don Lemon Show on the Don Lemon channel. Turn the TV off. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe so you never miss a show. We're live every weekday at 10 a.m. and 5 p.m. Eastern time with new clips dropping at 2 p. and 8 p. And if you want even more Don Lemon Show content, join the Lemon community. Members get exclusive posts, behind-the-scenes videos, and live chats just for you. So hit the join button or visit our channel page to sign up. Thanks again for all your love and your support, and I'll see you next time.